Today, Wayward Wine is featuring a wine that I found while rooting around in my wine cellar, which is technically my crawl space. Although it is temperature controlled and humidity controlled, the cases down there are pretty happy. And it's just a place that I put things to forget about because I know they're going to drink too young and they need time to really just develop. And it's kind of a fun experiment to see where wines go over time. One of those that I snuck out of there was this Daou, a winery based out in Paso Robles, founded by two brothers from Lebanon, Georges and Daniel, that after working in computer tech stuff and engineering things, they sold all that in 1998 for quite a pretty penny and bought a whole mountain that they named after themselves. Shy guys. Based out in Paso Robles. It's a fairly famous mountain known for having really chalk intense soil. Originally designated by Chelyshev back in the 70s. And this wine in particular, their 1740, is 67% Cab Franc and 33% Merlot. It's always kind of Cab Franc led blend, just to highlight those other Bordeaux varieties that often get overlooked in the face of Cabernet in California. This is their 2010 vintage reserve, so I was hoping that, a decade since being picked, it might have mellowed a bit. It's pushing at 14.9% alcohol, and so my goal was to kind of give it some time to mellow out and see where it landed. So, time to try. As you can see, it is still quite inky in color, very deep ruby, almost still purple at the core, but definitely pushing more garnet towards the rim. Aromatically, really, really evolved now, showing off medium plus intensity, like cooked fruits of blackberry, cherry, black cherry, lots of black cherry, plum from that Merlot, lovely kind of almost like plum. If you can make jam out of plum, imagine it while it's still hot, maybe. And then oodles of baking spices. We got lots of like nice cinnamon graham crackers, almost a kind of caramelized note. Kind of reminds me a bit of a s'more, that caramelized marshmallow, chocolate, nice dark chocolate, but quality dark chocolate, and then that cinnamon graham cracker on top. Let's try it. So right off the bat, it's dry, dusty, grippy. The tannins are still really pronounced from the Cabernet Franc, as well as the barrel aging that goes on here. The Daous like to use a lot of New French Barrique, and it shows. You got a lot of that wood tannin being seeped off in from the barrel while the wine is waiting there, aging over time. Acidity is moderate. It's definitely like cooled off over time, but it's still there. It's still holding up pretty well. The alcohol, like it's 14.9, it's still pretty hot. Kind of reminds you of those nice warm little coals that you'd warm your feet by back in olden times. So there's heat and there's weight. It's definitely medium plus bodied, nearly full. In terms of texture, like there's that woody tannin, that grippiness from the Cabernet Franc skin, and also just a ton and ton of like chunky, thick pile carpet almost in terms of texture. It's got that like softness but richness, and like you can almost press into it and leave an impression. It's so dense. Flavors do roughly the same dance as the nose, although a bit more savory, a bit more dried herb, a bit more really fine quality tobacco, like dried tobacco, a little bit of ash, a little bit of smoke, in addition to all those like dried fruits, the black cherry, the raspberry, the plum. Touch of caramel as well, touch of that caramelized note that we got with the kind of s'more-like aroma, but definitely a little bit more serious on the palate. And length is definitely medium plus. This is at a very happy point in its life. A wine that honestly you could just drink alone. It's very voluptuous, very round, very soft, and just really pleasant. Um, there's a lot to kind of pick away at in terms of flavor profiles. It's not overwhelmingly tannic. It's only medium plus. It's still grippy, but not demanding of food. Although I could see this pretty happily alongside some hard cheeses. You could even go blue with this. Maybe a aged blue cheese that's not too strong in flavor. Uh, you know, things like steak, grilled meats. Pretty happy here. Burgers. Nice cheddar burger would go really well. Olives would be nice. Anything garlicky would hold up pretty well here. And even after 10 years, it probably still has a year or two to go. You're definitely gonna get a lot more herb. The fruit's gonna kind of fall out after time, but it's a pretty happy wine. Still holding up pretty well after a decade since it was picked. So not a bad job if you can find it anywhere. Daou 2010 Reserve Cab Franc Merlot blend. They're 1740 as they call it. Although even newer vintages are quite good. I just find them a bit overbearing, a bit disjointed, not as kind of seamless and sort of silky as this is when they're in their youth, because the tannins are just overpowering. The oak is overpowering. If you like lots of oak, go for a young version of this, but at this point in its life, it's pretty tasty. When you're in the mood for just something warm and bold to kind of, warm you up on a cold night as fall descends upon us, as winter comes. Not a bad job. Very good in terms of quality, and yeah, no complaints.